Hello, everyone, and welcome to, um, gosh, uh, 30 minutes of an opportunity to talk about making love real. And I'm excited to be with you today. And I am so enjoying the opportunity to be on this summit with Mia and all the other incredible people that are showing up to share their wisdom with you. So today, what I want to do is I want to talk a little bit about genetic energetics, and I want to tie that into why it is so important around the subject of love, having love, experiencing love, being in love. So to begin with, I kind of want to give you a reference for why understanding what we are energetically is so important to how we show up in relationships with people. So let's come with me for a moment and just imagine that you and I and a couple friends have been asked by our closest friend Jane to wait for her in the hospital waiting room while she's having a minor surgery. So she just wanted some support, and she thought, I'm going to invite all my really good friends to see if they'll hang out and wait for me, and I'll feel so comfortable about all that. And we agree because we love Jane. And so we're at the hospital, and she's picked a really good hospital, a really great surgeon, and it's a minor surgery. So it should be quick. It's supposed to be about an hour long. And we're waiting in the waiting room. And we're all friends, so we're talking and we're communicating, and we're laughing and discussing all the fun things we know about our friend Jane and how we met. And it's really a wonderful, connected, loving moment. So we're doing this, and about an hour goes by, and we're going, wow, I wonder how the surgery's going, because it should be done about now. And it hasn't finished, and we're still waiting, and we talk a little while longer, and then it's now almost 2 hours, and we're starting to get a little concerned, going, wow, this is a lot longer than we planned on this happening. And, a couple of people say, well, should we get up and check? And we go, well, let's wait a little while longer. Imagine there's now concern because we're going, this was only supposed to be an hour long. And then another 30 minutes pass, and we see down the hallway, there's the surgeon, and he's walking towards us. And he has this look on his face that it's not the one we were hoping for. I mean, he's not smiling. He's not happy. He looks very solemn. And he walks into the waiting room, and he walks up to us, and he goes, I'm sorry. We lost her. And we're shocked. We're going, oh, my God, how could this happen? What? This was a minor surgery. How could this be? And he says, she told us her blood type, and we used that information, and we had to give her a transfusion, and it was the wrong blood type, and we couldn't bring her back. So as friends, we're stunned, and we're shocked, and we're imagining, how does this could this be real? And think about it, in a hospital environment these days, that's unlikely that would ever happen. I mean, they're going to check constantly to make sure they have the right blood before they transfuse anything. But in our relationships with our friends, with our beloveds, with our family and work, we're doing relationship surgery all the time, and we don't know the blood type. So genetic energetics, which is the science I work with, and the one that really is behind a lot of the belief systems and the principles that I follow, is that blood type. And that's why it's so important, and why I want to share it with you today. Because I want you to have an opportunity to connect with all those people in your life, and how to up-level that connection so it's easier, so it's smoother, so there's not a lot of stories, so you're not ever in judgment or blame or shame or guilt or any form of resentment, but instead you're able to honor and acknowledge and love people. And think about it, for us to be really loving and come from a place of love, it's common for us to really want to be seen. We want to be seen. And at the same time, we need to be able to see other people, and we need to be able to see them without judgment. or without carrying some preconceived notion or idea about how they're going to show up or why they're spending time with us or why we should spend time with them. But instead to go into that relationship, that experience of just, what is happening for you today? And if the person has a challenge or has an issue, then even if they have an issue with us, we know that there's something up for them. And instead of going into judgment or being protective or being fearful of maybe speaking up, we can ask questions and be highly curious. And so we created, I can't say we created it, over 40 years ago, genetic energetics was created by a gentleman by the name of Dick Nelson, who since then has passed away. But this work he did was designed to help people understand how we connect with each other. And there are some it's actually quite simple. And those people on the line that are listening today, this is an opportunity. I'm going to share some information that's forever going to change how you show up with people. So Julia, welcome. Monica, welcome. Are you ready? Are you ready to get some information that will forever change the way that you connect in a positive way? If you are, just shoot me a heart or a love sign or something like that so I know. Thank you. So here's how it works. There are energetic frequencies that we vibrate at. All of us do. And those frequencies are sometimes in common. They're harmonic. They vibrate at the same time with another person. And sometimes they're discordant. And by discordant, let's see, I'll give you an example. If you've ever played with magnets, and you go to push two magnets together, you've probably had the experience where they repel each other. You keep trying to push them together. Like when we were kids, we'd push them together, we'd have them on the table, they'd like push each other apart. Well, there's circumstances like that happen with all of us energetically with different people in our lives. And what genetic energetics has done is been able to identify what those frequencies are so we know when we're going to encounter something that is either more challenging or might be easier. And by ease, I mean it kind of flows. But here's the reality. There are so many different kinds of people in our lives, and everybody shows up for a reason and a purpose. Always for a reason and a purpose. There's a lesson, there's a message, there's something great to be had by the experience that we have with every single person. Even though we might not at the beginning, it's definitely there. And so I want you all to think about that. And so with genetic energetics, what I want to do is I'm going to really quickly tell you about the profile that we've given everybody as a free gift, and I'll share it again here in our system so you'll be able to get it if you haven't got one. But there are 4 primary lifestyle traits that we have. One is communication, how we communicate. Another is our activity level, how we interact with people, the speed that we process information. Another one is around finance, and another is around how we sexually engage. So if you think about communication, we've all had that experience where someone in our life showed up and they were, we were really excited to be with them. But after we spent a little bit of time with them, all of a sudden we find ourselves being drained of energy. And we've all had that experience, right? Where you meet someone, you feel just exhausted with very little time that goes by. I'm trying to figure out how I can get this thing to start making, there we go, stop making all these noises. So we have that experience where time goes by and we going, oh my gosh, this is like, I am totally drained. So what we want to do instead is realize that person is not draining us. It's just 2 different energetic frequencies that are working against each other. Now, how does that show up in our lives? You have people like that we meet, and we may want to spend a lot of time with them. So if we want to spend a lot of time with them, we need to make sure that we're in a really resourceful state. And because if they're draining our energy or we're draining their energy, it could be difficult otherwise. And maybe some of those people are people we just want to talk to on the phone. But here's another element of communication that we all know that's really important, is that of the 2 different communication types, and mine, by the way, is called structural. So and the other kind is figurative. But as the structural person, when you talk to me, I'm going to take you literally. And when I say something to you, I'm going to pick my words to mean exactly what I want to say. That's the way I communicate. Now, not everybody communicates in that same way. Some people are very figurative, very emotive in their communication. And so it's not quite as important to them the exact words they use as it is a conveyance of emotion. So in that circumstance, when I'm talking with someone that's structural, someone that's figurative, and I'm structural, there's a really high likelihood we may have misunderstandings. They may say something to me assuming I know what they're saying, and I really don't know for sure, so I need to check in. Now, we've all had that experience, right, where we thought someone really understood us or was really listening well, and then we check back in with them, and they go, and we have this moment where we go, what, were you not listening to me? And the reality is it's two different communication styles. One's very emotive, and one's just literal. And the two differences, that we can play with each other, we can communicate, or we can want to be with each other, but when we communicate, we have to take extra steps to make sure that we're being understood, that we're being heard, and that the person, when they're speaking to us, that we understand them. And when we take that, when we acknowledge that there's a difference and we take those extra steps, then the relationship could be fabulous. But if we don't, it's going to be a train wreck a lot of the time. And we don't want train wrecks in life. We want an opportunity where we can come from a place of love. And by the way, the reason why a lot of people are attracted to folks that are not necessarily the right communication style with them is because of a thing called chemistry. And the genetic energetics report, the personal energetic profile that we're giving everyone, has a section in it that identifies chemistry. We call it attractions. Now, why is this important? Because chemistry is that one incredible drug. Actually, it's 6 neurotransmitters that all get elevated all at the same time when we're in the presence of someone that has the right energetic frequencies. Now, that person might not necessarily be the easiest person to get along with over time, and there may be lots of other criteria, other issues that are important that we just don't see, because when dopamine and serotonin and oxytocin and norepinephrine and PEA are all elevated, we don't really care. It's kind of like we're wearing rose-colored glasses. It's like, yeah, I want to be with this person. It feels so good. And it does feel good until all of a sudden it gets to be a little bit more difficult. And usually where the difficulties come up first is right there in communication. So understanding your chemistry and who you have chemistry with is really valuable. Understanding that there's a difference in how we communicate. Again, one of those things that can make the difference between whether you think someone's an energy vampire or you just realize they're just different than you are, and it requires some accommodation. That's communication style. Another one of the 4 pillars of genetic energetics is activity level. This is the speed that we the speed that we process information, and it's kind of how we run our lives. There's a lot of people who are called super active. That's one of the 2 different styles. Now, super active people, we say from the time their head leaves the pillow in the morning till the time it goes back on the pillow at night, they love to have things planned out. They love to have structure in their day. And by the way, the structure could be planning time to meditate, or time to walk on the beach, or time to watch a movie. So it's not like they're just balls to the wall going crazy and they never slow down. They have, and what they love is a plan for life, right? And when they have this structure, they are the happiest. But they're also high speed. And because they're high speed, sometimes they're misunderstood. I was just with a young woman yesterday who has a young child who is super active and extremely focused. He has a couple characteristics in our system that make him very, very focused. And the doctors want to say he's ADHD, but he's not. What he is he's just super active. He likes to get things done. And he's in that scenario, like anyone that is super active would know, pretty much they have to stop themselves from finishing other people's sentences almost all the time because they know what someone's going to say. And they're actually just being polite, letting us finish. And I say us because I am what's called moderate active. So I love to process information before I just respond. And I can go like a bat out of hell. When I'm on task, I can go like crazy. But when I'm done, I just chill. I can just relax. But a super active person's not quite like that. They like to have structure. And that structure is super important for them. And it's super important that we acknowledge it. My own partner is super active. And if I was not acknowledging the way she operated, the way she operates her life, runs her life, it would be a really big challenge for us. But because I know what she is, and I know how she likes to operate, and I know how she likes to make decisions, I can acknowledge that. I can honor that. And so again, this is another area in understanding our energetics, our genetic energetics, that allows us to embrace a difference as opposed to be at odds with it or make someone wrong. I mean, it kind of sucks. Think about it, to tell someone, hey, dude, you need to slow the heck down. I mean, just relax, chill, put your feet up on the sofa. And for a person who's super active, that might sound like a loving request that a friend's making, but they don't relate to it. And so instead of telling them to just chill down, we say, hey, you know what? This is what we're doing. Do you want to join us? And if they say no, we go, all right, great. I can honor that. Instead of going, oh man, they never just want to hang on the sofa and, watch a sporting game or sit down and watch movies just, without it being scheduled or planned, and be upset about that. See, when it comes to love, folks, the one thing that gets in the way of love is stories, is any kind of belief system that you have that projects on another person the way they should be. Or anytime we look at someone and we get upset because they're not like us. Because you know what? The best person to get along with is going to be yourself, right? I mean, truly, we move the speed I talk, the way I communicate. When I get with someone that's just like me, it's like, oh, wow, this is really wonderful. This is easy. And when I'm with someone that's very different than me, it takes extra work. Now, the extra work could well be worth it. But I can tell you that there's not a single one of us that would not enjoy being able to connect with someone that seems very much like us. In fact, you all know that experience, because usually when you meet someone like that, it feels like you've known them forever. That there's one of my favorite sayings is, you're my new best friend forever. And that can happen in a heartbeat because you've met someone who's very much like you. Or there's a ton of chemistry, or both. And if there's both chemistry and they're very much like you, that is like an ironclad new relationship that you can never break up. It will last a lifetime. All right, so we have talked about, and I'm going through this very quickly, and I hope you're okay with that, but we've talked about communication, we've talked about activity level. Another area is what's called financial logic. And for those people in business, this is really important. Because again, there's two kinds. There's someone who is what we call conservative financial logic, and those people just have an awareness about money all the time. And then there's non-conservative financial logic, and this person we nicknamed the Rainmaker because money just shows up. I mean, they could have no money, and they're never really worried about it. It's like the person that has, it's the end of the month, rent's due tomorrow, and you don't have any money, and you look in your refrigerator and you have no food, and you're invited to an event and it's going to cost $500, and it's something you really want to do, and you go, okay, I'm in, but you don't know where it's coming from. And crazy enough, that money always shows up, almost always shows up for the non-conservative people. It's because they just don't have any angst around it, and it just flows in when they're open to it. Now, if you find out you're non-conservative, money's not flowing to you, then that's an area to look closely at experiences you've had in your past that may be affecting the way money flows. You may have some belief systems that you picked up from your family or from friends or some commercial or a mortgage company, who knows what, that is really kind of constraining you when you're, as opposed to when you're in your flow and money flows to you. Now, in relationships, how's this important? So, in my own relationship, my partner is non-conservative. She really doesn't like to deal with money. She loves it. She has fun with it. But when it comes to managing books and taking care of things like taxes, it's like, ugh, it's painful. Now, for me, it's not that I love to do that, but it's really easy for me to do it. And so it's just simple to say, hey, I'll take care of it. Let me handle that and put that together. And she goes, oh my God, why would you want to do that? And because to me, handling money and managing money properly is such a simple thing. It actually feels good to know that it's managed, which a non-conservative person would be going, I can't even imagine why someone would come from that place. But we do. So the conservative financial logic person is a great person to have around if you want someone to manage your books. Now, the downside for conservative financial logic person is that we can focus on money so much that when it comes to business, if we're not paying close attention, or if we're paying too close attention to money, it actually gets in the way of prosperity showing up. It's kind of like this. If I had an office that I paid $10,000 a month for, and each client that I had was worth $1,000, then I could just go, hey, I just need 10 clients. And if I have 10 clients, I got my rent covered. That's great. But if I'm counting them, like I'm halfway through the month and I go, okay, I got 5, I only need 5 more, and I'm counting, I might as well lock my door. What I need to do instead is not count the money, but focus on the benefits of what I'm providing. Well, if I'm thinking more like, oh my God, I can't wait to get another client because it's just so exciting to see how it transforms their life and the life of their family and their kids and their friends when they're successful with the work we do. And it's not focused on money anymore. It's focused on benefit. It's focused on giving. And when that's the mindset, money then starts to flow in. Okay. By the way, if you have questions, I think you can text him. I think there's a link here where you can ask. Please ask, and I'm happy to answer any questions you have. All right, now comes the next big one, and it's called sexual response type. And we could spend hours just talking about this, but this is a really important area for a couple reasons. One, statistically, we found that 95% of the relationships that are mismatched sexually don't succeed unless they understand and are knowledgeable about the mismatch. So this is what it looks like. And this is why it's so important. There are 2 different kinds, and let's see which one you relate to. One person is called mental emotional, and the other one's called physical. Now, the mental emotional person is someone where the prelude to a sexual encounter is really important to them. They have to have an emotional connection. They have to really be in kind of a scene, in the mood for that to happen. And that prelude to sex is critical for them, at least for longevity in the relationship. Also, their sexual energy is flowing all the time. It's on the surface, and so it can be seen and felt by other people. Now, for a lot of women, this can be a really big issue. It's an issue for men as well, but it's not as obvious. It's a little bit trickier for men. For women, what happens, and you tell me if you've had this experience, what happens is that you may show interest. You may be curious about someone. So you enter into a conversation with a guy, maybe at a bar, at a meeting, at a gathering, and you're just curious who he is. Well, he's feeling your sexual energy, and he thinks your curiosity means that you're more curious than just wanting to know who he is, but maybe he feels like you're flirting with him. And so his response is one like, wow, I'd love to go out with you. I'd love to, he wants to take it down the path of a relationship. And you're going, whoa, wait. I just want to know who you were. I'm not interested in anything like that. You may even be in a relationship already and, may have to turn around and say, I'm in a relationship. I'm not interested in another one. I was just curious who you are. But it's kind of off-putting because you're thinking, wait a second, I wasn't flirting and now this guy's coming on strong. Why is that? The reason why that happens is that for a mental emotional person, again, I'll say it, your sexual energy is all on the surface. People can feel it. We cast people for movies, couples for movies, and when we're really trying to put together a love scene that's really, really believable, we look for the sexual response types to be the same, because otherwise most people can see it. In fact, my younger daughter, or my daughter, she's not so young anymore, but when she was young, when she was in her teens, she would watch a movie and I'd say, so do you think that's there's a real quality relationship there? And she'd go, no, Dad, that's just good acting. But when there were sexual response types were matched, it looks and feels so real. So here's the other thing that happens. So because mental emotional women are so often misunderstood, the one thing that they do is they very commonly will layer their clothing. They'll dress more conservatively. You'll see far fewer mental emotional women wear very low cut tops or revealing tops or short skirts. They just don't do that because they're so often misunderstood. And here's the flip side to that. Their partners, their girlfriends who are physical sexual response type do just the opposite. They will dress more provocatively because they want to be noticed. Now, the mental emotional woman who has friends that are physical sexual response type may discover from time to time that her friends don't want her to come out with them. They don't want to go to a bar with them because they're tired of seeing her attract all the men when they don't. And this happens consistently. So understanding this difference is not just about how we engage with opposite gender or same gender partners in a sexual way. It has to do with how we relate to our friends as well, because there may be decisions being made that have really nothing to do with someone's intention, but everything to do with energetics. Now, the physical sexual response type man and woman, they're very different. Like I said, their sexual energy is all held inside. So they, ideally, for a romantic partner, they want someone that has the same sexual response type because that person has the key to their lock, can open the door and let the sexual energy flow. And this flowing is really important. So we could go on and talk at length about this, but with the two different sexual response types, they need to learn about their differences, and they need to learn what they can do to accommodate for those differences, or those relationships often blow up and become a catastrophe or a really large challenge when it comes to the quality of their sexual engagement. So, gosh, it's already been 30 minutes, and I could go on for hours about this. I'd love to spend more time with you. But it's just 30 minutes today, and maybe we'll come back again, or you can come check in with us at the4answers.com. We invite you to get your personal energetic profile if you haven't gotten it. And the primary reason why is that at the core of all your relationships, underneath everything, there is an energetic influence. And you want to understand this energetic influence to the best of your ability, so that you can really honor and acknowledge and love the people in your life, including yourself. Thank you for listening. Thank you for coming to the Make Love Real Summit and taking time to listen to all the great experts. Thank you, Mia, for putting this on, and much love to all of you today.